From in and around the Capital Region on the Alive Radio Network, this is The Matter at Hand. I'm Alicia Purdy.
We do not comply! We do not comply! We do not comply!
New Yorkers came from across the state to gather at the Capitol steps in Albany last week to voice their opposition to Governor Andrew Cuomo's Excelsior Pass, as well as any variation of a vaccine passport, calling the move digital tyranny. Members of the crowd, including leaders from the Libertarian Party of New York State, also took the opportunity to speak out against the possibility of government-mandated vaccinations. Currently, private institutions can mandate vaccinations for their workforce or students. However, federal and state governments have not issued any such mandates. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said in a press conference this week that the White House has no intention of developing or supporting so-called vaccine passports after several GOP governors issued executive orders barring them. According to Psaki, the government is not now, nor will they be, supporting a system that requires Americans to carry a credential. And she said there will be no federal vaccinations database, nor a federal mandate requiring everyone to obtain a single vaccination credential. Even so, according to a Pew survey conducted in February, 45% of white evangelical Christians reported that they definitely or probably won't get vaccinated against COVID-19, a far higher percentage than any other religious group surveyed. As the vaccines first became available, there was widespread concern that many Black Americans would be hesitant to take them due to historic racism-related mistrust of government health initiatives. But recent surveys show Black Protestants are more open to vaccinations than white evangelicals. The New York Times investigated why evangelical Christians were declining the vaccine in such large numbers, and answers ranged from hearing from God on the issue to stay away from the vaccine, to concerns about long-term physical effects from the vaccine, to issues with the vaccine's ingredients, which include fetal cell tissues. Fetal cell lines, which are derived from past abortions, have long been used as part of the standard practice in developing vaccinations, which has been a source of ongoing protest from Christians and other pro-life Americans. While the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines cause a protein reaction in the body that triggers an immune response, the carrier used to deliver the molecules is a harmless drop of oil. However, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which requires only one injection, uses an actual live virus as a carrier rather than a little droplet like the other two vaccines. But viruses can't grow on their own. The Johnson & Johnson company grows their carrier viruses in abortion-derived fetal cell lines. The Archdiocese of New Orleans has urged Catholics to avoid the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, calling it morally compromised, as their statement claims it uses the abortion-derived cell lines in development and production of the vaccine, as well as in the testing. Several Christian leaders wrote an open letter to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration in April of 2020, warning that Janssen Pharmaceuticals, which produced the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, was developing a vaccine using older cell lines that were created from the cells of aborted babies. However, Johnson & Johnson responded to that letter, denying there were fetal cell tissues in the Janssen COVID-19 vaccine. Other ethicists state that the cells in question are clones and not the original fetal tissue from an abortion, a fine line that many Christians say isn't good enough. However, in spite of pro-life objections, the president of the Southern Baptist Convention, America's largest evangelical denomination, posted a video on Facebook of him getting the COVID-19 vaccine. It drew more than 1,100 comments, many of them voicing admiration for the Reverend J.D. Greer, and many others assailing him. Some of the critics wondered if worshipers would now need vaccine passports to enter the Summit Church he pastors in Durham, North Carolina. Others depicted the vaccine as satanic or unsafe, suggesting Pastor Greer was complicit in government propaganda. According to one clinical trials report, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was 85% effective at preventing severe cases of COVID-19 1 month after receiving it. But vaccinations from Pfizer and Moderna were reported to be more effective. However, Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the U.S. National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, recently admitted in an interview that the COVID-19 vaccines are not actually safe for all people, saying that the country needed to make sure the vaccine was truly safe before giving it to children, which he said could only be done by conducting hundreds to a couple of thousand of tests on children. The same caution was applied to pregnant women. And numerous sources have cited the vaccinations for COVID-19 as the cause of more injuries and deaths than the natural COVID-19 infections. Earlier in the month, a Virginia man reported a strange consequence when his skin peeled off in a rare reaction to the COVID-19 vaccine from Johnson & Johnson. Other reports revealed that the AstraZeneca vaccine also caused thromboembolism, or a rare blood coagulation disorder, on those who were vaccinated, in addition to a number of deaths occurring immediately after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. In fact, the European Union temporarily suspended the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine as a response. Outside the U.S., other countries are also working to address vaccinations within their population. The nation of Israel became the first country to issue a green passport in February to residents who received the COVID-19 vaccination. The World Health Organization says that proof of vaccination will be essential to public health services that include studies on vaccine effectiveness and vaccine impact, as well as vaccine adverse events. But White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the federal government's interests would be focused on Americans' privacy and rights, which she says should be protected so that such systems are not used against people unfairly. Psaki also said the Biden administration was working on addressing privacy concerns related to the vaccine. In spite of the federal assurances that vaccine passports and other tracking methods would not be federally required, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, issued an executive order saying he would bar their usage. According to a statement from Abbott, government should not require any Texan to show proof of vaccination and reveal private health information just to go about their daily lives. And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, also a Republican, issued a similar order last week after having criticized the passports as a terrible idea. In New York State, however, Democrat Governor Andrew Cuomo rolled out his Excelsior Pass system that would mandate people show they've been vaccinated when trying to enter certain events and locations. In a recent press conference, Governor Cuomo pushed hard against New Yorkers who haven't gotten vaccinated, saying the reasons for avoiding a vaccination were flawed.
The first reason is the superhero reason. Have you heard the superhero reason? I'm a superhero. I'm not afraid of COVID. COVID can't beat me. I'm strong. I'm tough. COVID can't beat me. That's baloney. Even if you're young and you're a superhero, you can catch COVID and you can transmit COVID. And you can transmit it to your mother or your grandmother or someone else who is not as strong. And you can wind up hurting someone, you can wind up killing someone. Second excuse is what I call the scientist's excuse. Well, I want to see more data on the risk analysis of the vaccine before I take it. 10 million New Yorkers have taken the vaccine. That's your data analysis. The third excuse is the skeptic's excuse. Well, I know the government says it's safe, but I don't trust the government.
Governor Cuomo has had a dizzying fall from grace in recent months after a slew of illegal and unethical acts were made public. Nearly a dozen women have come forward to accuse the governor of sexual assault, and it was discovered that the governor had given special treatment to his family during the pandemic by allowing them access to testing and other essential services, while the rest of the state was locked down last year. And stunning reports were uncovered, proving that the Cuomo administration had intentionally covered up the true number of COVID-19 nursing home deaths in the state, estimated close to 15,000. And in spite of Cuomo's continued attempts to quell pandemic outbreaks in the state, nearly half of new coronavirus infections nationwide are in just 5 states. And New York, one of the most heavily regulated states, is one of them. Just this week, New York, Michigan, Florida, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey combined reported 44% of the nation's COVID-19 infections, which translates to nearly 197,000 new cases. In March, a poll by the Associated Press found that 25% of all Americans said they would not get vaccinated. And while 45% of white evangelicals have no intention of getting the COVID-19 vaccine, 27% of non-white Protestants said they wouldn't either. The findings have aroused concern among major evangelical circles. The National Association of Evangelicals, which represents more than 45,000 local churches, is part of a new coalition that will host events, work with media outlets, and distribute various public messages to build trust among wary evangelicals. Curtis Chang, a former pastor and missionary who founded ChristiansAndTheVaccine.com, said he believes the pathway to ending the pandemic runs through the evangelical church. And he said, with white evangelicals comprising an estimated 20% of the entire U.S. population, resistance to vaccination by half of them would seriously hamper efforts to achieve herd immunity. Aaron Harris, pastor of Calvary Baptist Church in Junction City, Kansas, hasn't discussed the vaccine from his pulpit nor decided whether he'll be vaccinated. And he said he doesn't believe vaccinations are a scriptural issue, but are a personal one. Harris also said he has faith in eternity, but will not live in fear of the virus, although he did point out the fine line between faith and fear is different for each individual. John Elkins, pastor at Sovereign Grace Fellowship in Brazoria, Texas, said in his heavily libertarian area, there's a lot of hesitancy to anything that feels like it's coming from the federal government.
We do not comply! We do not comply!
Requiring the use of the Excelsior app sends the signal that compliant behavior will be rewarded with a restaurant meal or a rock concert or a sporting event.
Yeah.
It creates a class structure where vaccinated individuals carrying smartphones are more deserving and of a higher caste than those who have legitimately chosen not to vaccinate or who carry a mobile device.
Organizers of the protest event in Albany said they plan to march against mandatory vaccinations in the state at a much larger event planned in New York City on May 1st as residents in the state wrestle with their own personal decisions about whether or not to get vaccinated. County websites covering the capital region contain more information about local vaccine locations, ranging from pharmacies, event centers, and local churches. Examining the issues that pertain to the people of God. This is the matter at hand. From in and around the capital region, on the Alive Radio Network, I'm Alicia Purdy.